Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into some fascinating writings on eclipses and the Gayatri Mantra.
Oh, yeah. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it should be good stuff.
Yeah.
It's by Shri Suresh Kumar Makam. We'll just call him Shri Suresh for this deep dive.
Makes sense.
He's a disciple of Shri Raghvendra Rao Sahib.
Okay.
And actually, right at the start of this piece, he includes this disclaimer from his Adi Guru that says, cleanse your manas, mind, with practice of sadhana, and then go through literature, otherwise reality will be lost upon you.
Wow. That's pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, a strong statement for sure. It really sets the tone, doesn't it? Like, you need to approach this with a certain level of preparation.
For sure.
Yeah.
Not just coming at it from a purely intellectual perspective.
Right. It's more about receptivity and an open mind.
Exactly. So with that in mind, let's jump in. So Shri Suresh dives into how eclipses were traditionally viewed as potentially dangerous times for the Earth.
Interesting.
Yeah. His teacher explained that when the sun's light is blocked, it's like the Earth loses its protective shield. I see. So it's like a vulnerability is created.
Right. And he connects this to the concept of juric forces in the Hindu Shastras.
Which represent
Chaos and destruction.
Right, right. So the eclipse with the sun being obscured creates this kind of void where these forces might gain influence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just about darkness, but about a shift in energy surrounding our planet.
That makes sense.
And that's where he brings in this ancient saying, Anatho Daiva Rakshaka.
Which means,
The helpless are protected by God.
that's pretty powerful in this context.
It is. It really highlights the sense of vulnerability during an eclipse.
Yeah.
And the need for divine intervention or protection.
Which leads us to Gayatri Mantra and why it's so significant during these times.
Okay, so let's get into that. Shri Suresh explains that Gayatri Mantra originated from the Saptarishi.
The 7 sages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specifically from Brahmarshi Vishwamitra around 60,000 years ago.
Wow, that's incredible. Talk about a long lineage.
Right. It speaks to the enduring power of this mantra. It's considered this potent prayer for the well-being of humanity, and traditionally chanted during eclipses to invoke divine protection.
I see. So it's like a direct line to that divine protection we were just talking about.
Yeah, it's fascinating. He even describes the specific ways it's practiced.
Oh, how
Out on the banks of
fascinating.
rivers, oceans. Or using a panchapatra filled with water if natural water bodies aren't accessible.
It's interesting how people actively try to connect with a source of purity and strength during these times.
Absolutely. It's like they're seeking out those higher vibrations to counterbalance that potential vulnerability.
That makes sense. What strikes me, though, is that it's specifically Gayatri Mantra that's recommended, not other mantras or chants.
That's a good point. Why Gayatri Mantra specifically?
Right. What makes it so uniquely suited for this purpose?
Yeah.
What power does it hold in relation to eclipses?
Those are great questions. So now Shri Suresh goes on to describe his personal experience during the lunar eclipse back in September of 2024.
Oh.
He talks about this profound sense of cleansing, purging, purification while practicing Gayatri Mantra and meditation.
It's like the eclipse combined with this practice facilitated a spiritual detox.
Exactly. He even describes it as divine drowning, drenching, and dissolving in pure divine.
Wow.
He compares it to Ganga Snan, bathing in the sacred Ganges River.
Clearly a pretty intense experience.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So we have this concept of eclipses potentially opening a door to Ashuric forces and Gayatri Mantra acting as a shield or a way to access divine protection.
Right.
And then we have Shri Suresh's experience suggesting this period also allows for profound purification.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. It makes you wonder, could actively engaging with practices like Gayatri Mantra during eclipses allow us to tap into a deeper spiritual understanding and experience a similar sense of renewal?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it?
It is. What if we're missing out on a potent opportunity for personal and spiritual growth by not engaging with these events in a more conscious way?
It's definitely a thought-provoking idea. And maybe Shri Suresh's experience gives us a glimpse into the potential these practices hold.
So the one thing Shri Suresh mentions is that his Acharya Deva emphasized an eclipse doesn't even have to be visible to impact Earth.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, kind of mind-blowing.
That suggests a whole other level of influence beyond what we can physically see.
Right. It raises the question, are there eclipses happening that we're completely unaware of, yet still impacting us?
And if so, how do we even know when to engage in these protective practices if we can't see them happening?
Right. It adds a whole other layer to this.
Definitely.
So Shri Suresh also describes how after experiencing this deep purification during the eclipse, he felt this continuous flow of grace filling him and his surroundings with purity, sanctity, and divinity.
So it sounds like it wasn't just a temporary shift.
Right. It was like a complete change in his state of being.
As if the eclipse, in conjunction with the Gayatri Mantra practice, acted as a catalyst for a profound spiritual shift, a kind of reset button for his inner world.
And he even goes on to say that every subsequent eclipse felt like a rebirth.
Wow. So this idea of cyclical renewal aligning with these celestial events,
It's powerful stuff.
it really is. It makes you think about our own relationship with the cosmos.
For sure.
What if instead of fearing these events, we embrace them as opportunities for growth and transformation?
That's a really interesting way to reframe it. Instead of seeing them as threats, what if we saw them as invitations to dive deeper into our own spiritual potential?
Yeah, I like that.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's pause here for a moment. So for you listening, what are your thoughts so far? What stands out to you?
Well, for me, what really stands out is that disclaimer at the beginning. You know, that reminder to approach this topic with a cleansed and prepared mind.
Right.
It suggests that this isn't just about, like, intellectually understanding eclipses, but about experiencing them on a deeper, almost like energetic level.
It's true. It's like he's saying you need to do the inner work, the sadhana, to really grasp what he's talking about.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a certain level of awareness and receptivity. And maybe that's why his personal experience during the eclipse was so profound. He was already attuned to those energies and those shifts.
Makes you think about those who might just dismiss these practices as superstitions.
Yeah.
You know, could it be that they just haven't cultivated that inner sensitivity to perceive those subtle dimensions?
It's a possibility. I mean, in our modern world, we tend to prioritize the scientific, the measurable, the observable. But maybe there's a whole realm of experience beyond that, which requires a different kind of awareness.
So it's not about proving or disproving anything,
Mm-hmm.
but about acknowledging there are different ways of knowing and experiencing the world.
Right. Science can explain the mechanics of an eclipse, but it might not capture the full spectrum of what's happening on a more subtle energetic level.
And that's where these ancient practices and traditions come in. They offer a different lens to view these events, one that takes into account those subtler dimensions.
It's like we need both lenses, the scientific and the spiritual, to get the complete picture.
Totally agree. Now, another thing that struck me was Sri Suresh's emphasis on Gayatri Mantra being the prayer for eclipses. He specifically says no other mantras or chants are traditionally used as during those times.
He does, which makes you wonder why.
Right. What is it about Gayatri Mantra that makes it so uniquely suited for this?
It's a great question. Remember he mentioned it originated from Brahmarshi Vishwamitra, like way back 60,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah. During a time when humanity was facing some serious challenges.
Right. It was almost like a divine response to a crisis, a tool to help navigate difficult times. Could it be that Gayatri Mantra has a particular resonance with those energies of disruption and potential chaos that are associated with eclipses?
That's a really interesting thought. Perhaps it acts as a counterbalance, a way to access that inner strength and stability amidst all the external upheaval.
And remember, he describes feeling this immense sense of purification and renewal after chanting Gayatri Mantra during the eclipse. Like it helped clear out any negativity or blockage within himself and align with a pure, more divine frequency.
So maybe it's not just about protection from external azuric forces, but also about purifying and strengthening our own inner landscape, making us more resilient to those challenging energies.
That's beautifully put. It suggests that even in the midst of darkness or perceived threat, there's this opportunity for profound inner transformation.
And that Gayatri Mantra might be a key to unlocking that potential.
This whole idea of eclipses as catalysts for spiritual growth is really fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
It challenges us to view these events not with fear, but with a sense of possibility.
It's like those moments when the sun's light is obscured are invitations to turn inward and tap into a deeper source of light and strength within ourselves.
And to reconnect with that divine protection that's always available even when we can't see it.
Which brings to mind another point he made, that eclipses don't have to be visible to impact Earth.
Right. That concept really expands our understanding of how these events might be influencing us on a subtle energetic level.
It makes you wonder if we're constantly being bombarded by these cosmic energies, whether we're aware of them or not.
And if practices like Gayatri Mantra could help us become more attuned to those shifts and navigate them with more awareness and intention.
It's like we're tapping into this ancient wisdom that recognizes the interconnectedness of everything in the universe. You know, from the movement of celestial bodies to the workings of our own minds and hearts.
Precisely. And maybe by embracing that interconnectedness, by acknowledging the influence of these cosmic energies, We can start to understand ourselves and our place in the universe in a whole new way.
But how do we even begin to grasp something as vast and complex as the cosmos?
Right.
Suresh's writing, especially that disclaimer at the beginning, seems to suggest it's not a purely intellectual pursuit.
It's true. It's like he's saying we need to approach this with a certain level of humility and reverence, recognizing that there are forces at play that are beyond our comprehension.
It's not about figuring it all out, but about cultivating a sense of awe and wonder, and maybe even a willingness to surrender to the mystery.
And perhaps that surrender, that openness to the unknown, is what allows us to truly experience the transformative power of these events and practices.
So what if the eclipses we experience aren't just astronomical events, but invitations to embark on a journey of inner exploration and transformation?
And what if practices like Gayatri Mantra hold the key to unlocking that potential?
It's something to ponder.
Yeah.
It's like we're being challenged to expand our awareness,
Yeah.
to look beyond the surface of things and explore the deeper, more mysterious dimensions of our existence. It's amazing how Sri Suresh describes that time after the eclipse, like this prolonged state of grace and purity and divinity. It's not just a fleeting thing. It seems to have permeated his life afterward.
Yeah, it speaks to a lasting impact, not just a momentary shift, but a more permanent transformation.
He uses the word rebirth to describe it, almost like the eclipse combined with this practice allowed him to shed an old skin and step into this new way of being.
It kind of resonates with that traditional view of eclipses as these times of upheaval and change.
Right? It's like the obscuring of the sun's light creates a space for spiritual renewal.
And Sri Suresh's experience seems to suggest that engaging with practices like Gayatri Mantra during those times can amplify that potential for transformation.
Right. But remember, his teacher also emphasized that eclipses don't even have to be visible to have an impact on Earth.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That really broadens our understanding of how these events could be influencing us on a subtle, energetic level.
It makes you wonder, are we constantly being affected by these cosmic shifts without even realizing it?
It's a pretty wild thought. What if we're always in this dance with these cosmic energies, whether we're aware of it or not?
And if that's the case, maybe practices like Gayatri Mantra offer a way to become more aware of that dance,
Mm.
to participate in it with intention and grace.
That brings us back to that disclaimer at the beginning. Cleanse your manas, mind, with practice of sadhana, and then go through literature, otherwise reality will be lost upon you.
It's like he's saying we need to do the inner work. Cultivate that receptivity and awareness to really understand what he's talking about. Not just read about it, but embody it.
Exactly. It suggests that understanding these concepts isn't just an intellectual thing, but an actual journey of transformation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this question. What if eclipses are more than just astronomical events? What if they're these invitations to embark on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening?
And what if practices like Gayatri Mantra are like the tools that help us navigate that journey and unlock that potential within us?
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Maybe by embracing those possibilities, we can start to experience the world and ourselves in a whole new light.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this exploration. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.